Hello everyone, a warm welcome to you. My name is Nick. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, amongst other things we review ZX Spectrum games, and once every often, generally after 50 reviews, we have a bit of a recap. So this is recap of Spectrum games reviewed 151 through to 200. Yes, we've reviewed 200 games now. If you like the look of any of these games, it brings back a bit of nostalgia, track down the full review. And of course, you want to look at the reviews playlist. You see 1 to 50 on the Spectrum, 51 to 100, and 101 to 149. So let's do the next chunk then. Let's go.
And first up is LUNAR JETMAN, a game by Ultimate Play the Game. It is pretty tricky, but you control a hovering Jetman and have to get this car back to base. Out of the two, I prefer Jetpack in terms of hovering, but this isn't a bad game. I have to say it goes down as an all-time classic, more than likely. There is a bit of a cheat here. We get in and out the car. You can make it go forward a little bit without getting hit. But if you get hit by any aliens, then you're dead meat, essentially. Not many people would have completed this without a cheat mode on. KOSMIC KANGA, bit of a rarity, bit of an unusual one. You've got a kangaroo with a fully spacesuit on, and you must jump on these obstacles by going backward and forward and timing it and not getting hit by bombs or enemy aircraft. Yes, it's absolutely bizarre and incredibly and utterly weird. A kangaroo in space. Hooray! Boom. And he's dead again. 3D Escape, or Escape it was betterly known as. It's quite unusual, this game. It was an early one, and you can actually break into the program and see what they typed in to get it. Your man has to find a key and then escape out of that door, which is the blue thing in the top left. But I did spend quite a lot of time on this as a kid. I don't know how much it cost at the time, but there we go. You can have any number of 1 to 5 dinosaurs to chase you as you control this stick man. Seems a bit ancient by today's standards. Midnight Resistance, converted from the arcades. I don't think this is converted very well, although graphically it is pretty good. A lot of people would have had this. As I say, I think it's a little bit messy. I don't like the way the screen scrolls as opposed to continuous scrolling, you know what I mean. You have to go off the side, then it updates the screen. But, you know, isn't too bad. I think I'm in the minority. I think a lot of people do actually like this game. Not me, though, I'm afraid. Pit Fighter, this is an absolute disaster of a game. Yeah, again from the arcades, which wasn't very good. I've never seen a good conversion of this game whatsoever. The characters are quite big, although see-through. I'm the blue man here. You have to defeat a number of people going forward to progress, but why would you? The delay between hitting the buttons is extremely slow, so it doesn't feel very intuitive or easy to learn. Stay away from Pit Fighter. MARTIANOIDS by Ultimate Play the Game. Not one of their best games, but it's still rather interesting. You control this robot and must complete a circuit board, and there's lots of menacing things going across the screen which should try and destroy the circuit. So you've got to put a basic line down of all these and repair all the broken nodes. Yeah. There's better examples of Ultimate Play the Game games, but this is a 3D isometric which was getting popular at the time. Back to basics with Mrs. MOPP. The ZX Spectrum did have stars of games that you wouldn't find nowadays, but basically controlling this woman, called Mrs. MOPP, you must get the correct receptacle and clear up the things, which range like underwear, socks, and then empty it in the right bin and put it in the washing machine. The screen will gradually fill up more and more, and Mrs. MOPP will get tired. You can treat her to a glass of wine to try and help her in her assistance. Iron Man Stewart Super Off-Road Racer. Love this game on the Amiga. It's brilliantly coded on the ZX Spectrum, but the problem being, I don't know if they could have got around this, all cars are the same colour. So it's very easy to lose sight of which car's you, and in the heat of battle that can make a big difference. Which is a bit of a shame, really. I don't know why they didn't have different colours. Maybe they couldn't control the colour bleed or something. Because outside that, if you can keep an eye on your car, it plays extremely well. Exelon by Houston Consultants. Pretty good game, this one. In the review I did play it with a cheat mode on, but you have to go across a number of screens controlling this spaceman, and destroy all these things that are in the way. A 2D horizontal scroller. Again, it'd have to go down as a classic game. It'd be a lot of people's favourites, I guess. I definitely need a cheat on when I'm playing this one. Great sounds on this, great animation when things explode, and you know, can't ask for too much more. Boulder Dash, classic game in action from the arcades, had a number of different systems, a number of sequels, which I'm sure we'll come to. But basically you control this this guy, and he must get all the diamonds from the maze without being crushed by boulders when he goes underneath them. Number of different levels. Scroll's quite slow, but as an original game it's a great idea, and I don't mind it that much. Go Rockford, whatever his name is. Yeah, nice and colourful. Boulder Dash 2, ROCKFORD'S Riot. Now, this didn't offer too much over the original. It seemed like a cash-in. The graphics are all the same, so, you know, it worked like an expansion pack rather than an additional game. So very cheeky calling it Boulder Dash 2. But anyway, good luck to them. That's what I say. Boulder Dash 2. There are quite a lot in this series. I don't think all by the same people. What can you say about this one? Not much. Trans Am, I love this game, again by Ultimate. It's in a Mad Max post-apocalyptic world. Now, controlling this car, you must travel around the whole of the USA, collecting items, keys, not running out of fuel, avoid enemy people. Yeah, that's right. And not crashing like that. But if fuel runs out, you've got night and day stages. So it's all about exploration here, but a lot going on. Speed, fuel, damage, and a big huge map also. Strider from the arcades. Now, there's not a big frame rate on this game. Animation isn't brilliant, and it is monochrome, just black and white. There's colour underneath it outside the main screen. It's alright, but it struggles as an arcade conversion, which a lot of them did on the ZX Spectrum. I don't think they could have done much better, but it's not really my cup of tea, that. Just because the frame rate is atrocious, it doesn't make it enjoyable to play, and it is flashing quite a lot. A hidden gem, this one, Brainstorm. It plays like an Ultimate game, but it isn't. So they must have taken that as their influence. Again, there's a bit of inertia. You can control a Jetman, a bit like LUNAR, JETMAN, and also Jetpack. Reminds me a little bit of Attic Attack in a way that you collect keys to open certain doors. But another maze thing, you must try and get out of this castle. Good animation here. You can't really ask for much more. A lot of people won't have heard of this game, but it's a good one. Brainstorm. Strider 2. Again, the frame rate isn't very good, just like the original one. But what they have done here is try to add a bit of colour at least. And look at this. The character goes almost invisible as he goes past those bits. So they've had an attempt at it. Again, it is showing the ZX Spectrum's limitations. Maybe they should have gone for monochrome again. It is an improvement over the original game, although I do find it a bit annoying. Strider 2. CYBERNOID by the same people that brought you Exelon, Houston Consultants. Extremely difficult, this game. The animations are similar to Exelon in terms of the explosions, but I'm absolutely hopeless at it, to be honest with you. There is a sequel to this, CYBERNOID 2, which I'll also show you in this 50-game roundup. So yeah, there are a lot of incredibly difficult ZX Spectrum games, and I hit a few here, especially this bit. CYBERNOID, the fighting machine. And yeah, you definitely need a lot of fighting. Hot Rod, a diabolical conversion from the arcades. Control is blooming awful, and it's frustrating because the screen scrolls down. If you're behind, it will just scroll you down automatically. Quite often your car's pointing the wrong way, and a bit like Ivan Iron Man Super Off-Road, sometimes you do lose sight of what car's yours because they're all exactly the same colour. More of a cold rod than a hot rod, this one. One to avoid. CYBERNOID 2, very similar to the original CYBERNOID, although the graphics are very slightly improved. Different puzzle on every screen where you have to try and work out how to get through. This one is a timing bit, this particular level, but it'll keep you going for quite a long time. CYBERNOID 2, The Revenge. To my knowledge, there wasn't a third one done by Houston Consultants, but both very, very difficult. If you like the first one, you'll probably like the second one, so you'll get quite a lot of gameplay out of this for sure. Match Point, a very popular tennis game at the time, seems quite basic now by today's standards, but you can do doubles, singles, play against a computer or a friend, slightly easier if you're playing down the bottom here. The timing's a bit of an issue, but you're controlling stickmen, and it's classic 8-bit action really. Stickmen a little bit like, I guess, the volleyball game I did, Set, Jump, Spike, if I pronounced that correctly or even said it correctly. Match Point, we're at Wimbledon every time, can't go around the world, it's always the same course. Or track, or court, yes. Steve Davis Snooker, much better than the Amiga version. It's easy to line it up. It's just you against the clock essentially, trying to clear the table as quickly as possible as you line this out for the pink. These sounds can be turned off, which is a bit painful if you're wearing headphones on this. But Steve Davis, 7-time snooker world champion, this was a good game at the time. The 16-bit version of the Amiga is absolutely terrible, so you can choose any one of the two. Choose Steve Davis, the Nugget, on the ZX Spectrum. Renegade, the original and a lot of people's favourite fighting game on the Spectrum, or maybe of all time. You control this one guy, and he must beat up everyone on the screen to get to the next level. I don't know why they're all annoyed with him. They probably kidnapped his girlfriend, or his mum, or his dog, or his goldfish, but he's in a bit of a mood there. There is a tactic to try and take out the two people with the clubs first of all, then all the little people. Try and get them to fall over the edge. That's good at getting them out quickly. But there we go. Boulder Dash 3, this is taking things to the extreme. The control characters are the same as 1 and 2. The premise is identical. They've at least tried to change the graphics of the boulders to try and keep this with a straight face. But it's worse graphics. It doesn't scroll quite as well, or is it using the same engine? It's hard to know. And this first stage is pretty monochrome. If you've got the first two, do not buy this. It's exactly the same, more or less, but graphically not as good. Well, why did they do this? Target Renegade, an evolution from the first Renegade game. It's scrolling left to right and then right to left, as initially you go through a multi-storey car park trying to beat up everyone. It is better than the original game, there's a bit more to it, and it's a real nice game, a nice feel to it. If you're going to choose a fighting game, don't choose Double Dragon on the Spectrum, go for the Renegade series, in most particular Renegade 2 Target Renegade. Take that, you, and stay down. Nigel Mansell, a hero at the time, in these Nigel Mansell's Grand Prix. I don't like games where you see the cockpit and the car as well. No, we're not chasing closely by another car, this is actually us. I think it's a trick so they don't have to use too much of the screen to keep the speed going well. And it is quite a fast game. Overtaking is tricky. It's up there, I suppose, with pole position and checkered flag. Although I think they could have done a bit better, because this one came out a little bit later, I believe. Advanced Pinball Simulator. The ball's a little bit floaty and it does disappear slightly as it goes through that castle, that red castle there. But it's a good game. It's a good game in terms of pinball. You get quite a lot out of it, really. There's a lot to do actually on the physical table itself, like spell out letters and activate that bell thing on the top left. Not a great down to it, but many hours could get used up as your ZX Spectrum heats below 100 degrees, or above I should say. Renegade 3, the final chapter, and thank God it was. For some reason, Target Renegade used defeating gangs in Scumville. This one, you're going through different time periods, like prehistoric, ancient Egypt, and the like, and it doesn't really work. Why have they done this? They should have just improved over the second one and done it in the city again, but they tried to make it different, and this is the best level you're seeing here. For some reason, we're doing hand-to-hand combat with dinosaurs. Does that make sense? Not really. Galaxy Force, another conversion or port from the arcade. A very tricky one to port over on the ZX Spectrum, but they've done as best as they can, really. The frame rate isn't brilliant, but, you know, you just have to take your hat off for the coding rather than looking at it as a decent game in itself. As soon as you go through the tunnel stages, it gets virtually impossible and almost unplayable to see where things are, and very frustrating. Here we go, check out your eyes. Now, where's the ship we're trying to control? Yeah. New Zealand story. This has been played on the 128k version, so we can hear a bit of music here. But you have to control this Kiwi to rescue all his Kiwi friends that have been kidnapped by some dangerous scientist or doctor. Plays quite well, scrolls quite well. Yellow and black. Looks a bit like a Game Boy game, to be honest with you. And you have to rescue your friends before the time runs out. Great music on this one. SPINDIZZY, which was to herald a fleet of gyroscopic on marble controlling games. In my opinion, this one is the best. You have to go around various maps and collect diamonds until they're all gone. Basically, it's an exploration game, essentially. It would have entertained a kid, as it did myself. Many hours on this one. It controls really well, although it does take a bit of getting used to. Did anyone complete this? Well, a few people, no doubt. Taking it back to basics with the pub. It's just a pub trivia game. Very tricky now playing it because it's based on 80s stuff. But you can give a good go. It also come out on the Commodore Amiga, I believe. It's essentially if you're in the pub and you see a pub quiz game where you put money in and try and get money back. It plays a bit like that. And by answering questions, you complete certain pyramids and then you get awarded fantasy money. Do you know the answer to this one? I do. It's Tears for Fears. Is it? Yes. Way. ATV Simulator, which I got a lot of enjoyment out of this one. Essentially, it's a 2D scroller. You control this guy in this quad bike, and he must go over different obstacles by timing his speed and doing wheelies before the time runs out. And if he gets to the end, he gets to the next stage. Multiple levels, sand duning in the forest, and even the ice. Yeah, it's a bit peculiar, but you can have 2 players on this as well as a sort of like a split screen. Good music also. Fast Food, it's a Pac-Man clone, and the first of the Dizzy games that I've played, and I think I've only reviewed 2 so far of the Dizzy games. I'll have to correct that. But I really enjoyed this. It is strangely calming. You must get all the food round here. Later you've got moving chickens and milkshakes and stuff. But you must collect it all without getting hit by bombs or enemy ghosts. But yeah, it's very Pac-Man. And once every 5 levels you get one extra life or an animation screen. Cool. Beachhead, another classic, which you play over a number of mini games. This one is when you control a gun turret and have to destroy enemy aircrafts coming in. Another stage is when you're in a harbour and you have to direct your boat through like a bombed or a minefield without getting hit by anything. Yeah, so it's a good game, I would say. You have to play it to get the most out of it. It does have a sequel, which I think we'll also come to in this 50 roundup here. Beachhead. Shockway Rider, a curious game. I don't know if it is based on any novel by Asimov or any sci-fi writers of the day, but this is an Elvis-looking guy with big feet, and by jumping on various conveyor belts, he must ride the Shockway without getting decapitated and get to the end. Any of these pedestrians also on the Shockway can turn into enemy agents any time and kill you, so you have to keep your eye out on them. But a very bizarre game and a very original game. I really enjoyed playing this one, strange as it was. Green Beret, a 2D scroller. Very difficult, this one. You need the patience of a saint and the skills and reactions of Yoda to get the best out of this one. When it turns into army games, I much prefer Commando, but that was a vertical scroller rather than a horizontal one. This isn't without its merits, and in the review I actually did use a cheat mode, if you want to check that down, so I did get quite far in it. And there's some good, well thought out levels. It's well designed, but way too difficult. Marble Madness, converted from the arcades. That's going to turn into my catchphrase, I think, on these ones. It's very slow. You must guide the marble down different mazes. The Amiga version, it was continually scrolling. Here, you have to load it screen by screen, which breaks it down ever so slightly. And the collision detection isn't brilliant either, which is paramount in a game like this. It's alright, but it could have been a lot better. Comes with a course creator on it also. Beachhead 2, the Dictator Strikes Back, not quite as good as the original one. It's not too bad, although the stages are quite long. You have to, in this one, I've just lowered all my troops to try and avoid getting hit by the gun. Now they must go behind this wall and then blow up the gun turret before getting to the next stage. It's quite boring, to be honest with you, and a lot of people did comment on that in the actual game review. Very boring indeed, this game. Gemini Wing, vertical scroll on the ZX Spectrum. Like all vertical scrollers, must get my horizontal and vertical sorted out. With all vertical scrollers, the danger is the ship's a bit hard to see against the background. This is no difference. What's original with this game is the power-ups. You collect them and they would automatically fire once you've powered up your bar, or at a given moment. You haven't got too much control over that at all. Gemini Wing. The Vindicator, a rather cheeky sequel to Green Beret, because it doesn't look like anything like Green Beret at all. Heavily influenced by the Alien films, I think. You control this guy going through corridors, and by opening certain doors, an alien will come out. You have to kill it and then find bits of a gun or a bit of a lift pass or a code. Another very dull one. Here comes an alien and I'm dead. Yeah, it's not a sequel. They say it's a sequel to Green Beret, but nothing like it at all. They're just using the name. Bit like this one, really. It's a gyroscope, where essentially this was an unlicensed port of Marble Madness, and it was so good that the makers then got commissioned to make Marble Madness. So two similar games, although curious enough, Gyroscope is better and it runs a little bit quicker. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they had different constraints with Marble Madness, but out of the two, I much prefer Gyroscope. Although, again, very tricky to control. Quick snacks. Now this is the 128k version playing with music. I reviewed it on the 48k version which didn't have music, but they do play exactly the same. More of a puzzle game than Quick Snacks, but the same thing again. You have to collect all the food without getting killed or bumping into any of these enemies or penguins. Really fancy music on this, and a bonus stage each time where you have to collect everything again under a certain time. An unofficial conversion of sequel to Marble Madness, and it has been made with the Marble Madness construction kit. So yeah, I don't think it was officially released, but they couldn't call it Marble Madness 2, so they called it Gyroscope 2, although you are controlling a marble, not a gyroscope. Yeah. I think it must have been just a public domain game, this one. I can't find the box anywhere, so that would seem to back that one up. Highway Encounter. Now this game is a lot of people's favourite ZX Spectrum game of all time. I didn't have it as a kid, so I'm quite late to it, but it's an isometric 3D puzzle game. You must clear a path so you can get this weapon called the Lasertron and blow up the alien stronghold. They're attacking Earth, of course, and this is the only highway left before we reach in total annihilation. The control method is quite tricky, so you might find it easier on keyboard, but a very interesting and cleverly coded game, this one. Space Gun from the arcades again. Now they've done very well. This is the 128k version. They've done very well to code this because a lot's moving on screen at the same time. The aliens are quite big, but it is struggling. So a bit like Galaxy Force, it's clever the way it's coded, but a bit of a frustrating and slow slugfest. Can have 1 to 2 players on this one, influenced by aliens again, and that influenced so many games. NOMAD. It's a maze game, again with inertia. Controlling this ship, you must go around a really colourful maze. Quite enjoyable, this one. Activate switches, like this one down here, to open magnetic doors, and then have a major confrontation at the end. But the map is absolutely huge, so you would get your money's worth here if you're playing this one. Certain tactics involved. There's a bit of inertia there, and you mustn't get hit by any of these meanies. Starts off nice and easy, and then the meanies improve. This game's quite funny. I don't know why it's called Zoom, and the subject matter is a bit susceptible, curious. But these refugees or stickmen, they go from one side of the map to another, and we must stop them getting bombed by these enemy planes who do not like the refugees. They don't want them to get in. There's 3 other stages. One is tanks, and then guiding them against submarines, but the explosions does remind me a little bit of Lemmings, if you're familiar with that game. So yeah, don't analyse it too much. We're not rescuing real people, it's stickmen. The sequel to Highway Encounter is Alien Highway, and although it uses the same graphics, it's a bit more frustrating, this, because it's more on energy, and if you hit the side you lose your energy too fast. So nice idea, but didn't improve on the original. They just made it worse. So I've deducted marks for that. Out of the 2, concentrate on Highway Encounter and avoid Alien Highway. IKARI Warriors. You either play this or Commando or both. This is a really good game, although very difficult as well. Much better in 2-player mode. The makers say they were influenced by Rambo, and you can see that there. You can fire bullets and grenades, but essentially the level seems to go on forever. It is easier in 2-player mode, to be fair, but you're going to get quite a lot of enjoyment out of this one. It's quite well coded game. I think it was from the arcades again, and does have a sequel called Victory Road. Cyclone. This has gone down as one of my favourite Spectrum games. You control this helicopter. It's taken off from an island, and by going to various other islands, you must rescue people that are stranded there. At the same time, avoiding these heavy cyclone winds which run around the map, which makes control very difficult, and collecting crates as well. I've never completed this game, but I'm just fairly new to it really. Cyclone, check that one out if you've got a Spectrum or indeed an emulator. Now the last game we looked at in this 50 is Victory Road, which is a sequel to IKARI Warriors, although again as sequels go it's not quite as good. The controls aren't quite as responsive, and also as well there's a very annoying thing where when he shoots forward you get all these craters, which makes it look like the game's glitching when indeed it isn't. So yeah, a bit strange that one, but an interesting sequel. You're versus aliens this time rather than conventional people. And there we go, and that rounds up the total there. So it's games from 151 to 200 on this good old ZX Spectrum. Do feel free to look at those reviews individually, or look at the other videos, the other roundups, because they're in the playlist there. 1 to 50, 51 to 100, and 101 to 150. Or 149. I don't know how it works. Anyway, thanks for watching that as always, and till next time, a very warm goodbye.
Goodbye.